Welcome, Hayden. God, I'm so excited to have
Yeah.
you on this LinkedIn Live and really explore the Enneagram. I mean, I am so curious because I probably don't know enough, and you are the Enneagram expert. So,
Mm.
all in your hands. Why don't you just give us maybe just a quick introduction, something audacious about you, Hayden, given that you are
Uh,
on the Audacious Conversations, and then we'll go from there.
yeah. Thank you so much, Lee. And I'm so excited to be here to explore what audacity means for the Enneagram types. Wow, something audacious about me. That was a curveball. Wasn't expecting that question. Um, well, here's the thing. This actually is a perfect segue into the conversation because audacity for my Enneagram type, which is type 3, is that audacity with Enneagram is counterintuitive, meaning what you think would be audacious for that type is not what's audacious for that type, because that each type has great strengths which they lean into, but what audacity is for each type is the counterintuitive truth, is what you don't think they need to do, which will bring them more success and fulfillment. So why I say that is, for me, my Enneagram type is a type 3, right? Which is a competitive achiever. The motivation of a 3 is to be the best, be successful, look good, outshine others. So when you were first asking me what audacious means to me, I wanted to say things like, well, when I was 18, I traveled the world, by myself. I've studied internationally abroad. But that's not audacious because that's default for an Enneagram 3. So I guess something audacious for me would actually be, I'm really leaning into vulnerability and sharing weaknesses, actually sharing failures, but doing in a way that's authentic and not curated, if that makes sense. Because Enneagram 3 can be kind of performative, meaning I'm smart enough to know that vulnerability is the in thing right now, meaning like everyone is talking about vulnerability these days. But instead of thinking, instead of planning ahead, what should I say to be vulnerable in order to relate more to the audience, in order to, seem like I'm really current with the times? I think what is audacious for me is, I call it real-time vulnerability, like being able to share insecurities or nerves in the moment, right? For example, this is audacious for me. I think my screen is freezing a little bit. Can you see it? And I think that I'm so sorry that that's happening, and I'm a little bit embarrassed because I don't know, and that's real-time vulnerability. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, so I apologize if my screen is freezing. But yeah, while I see that, what's audacious for me is leaning into that. I'm going with it. I think my internet is choppy right now at the moment. I don't know why, and I'm just leaning into that there's a feeling of, I hope I'm not letting you down, or I hope I'm not messing this up. So that's my current feeling, which is audacious for me to share. That's what's going through my head in the moment.
Oh my God, and I love that, Hayden, because it's interesting. I know there is no coincidence, or at least this is one of my narratives. And as you were freezing at times, and you're clean now. It's like, oh, what the universe is trying to tell us, Hayden. And it's just like, okay, we're messing up in the moment for an Enneagram 3. And 2 weeks ago, I had Chris Frolick, it's a dear friend of both of us. And actually, what's Chris's Enneagram?
He's an Enneagram 5.
So he's a 5. But anyway, he was playing with failure. And he was like, that was his thing for the year. I am going to fail. And interestingly enough, he said that as an intention. He had a little failure at the end of our 30 minutes, which I'll let you watch to see. But
Yes.
I would love for some of our just listeners right now, or those who will listen later, can you just give a big sort of overview of the Enneagram, assuming that people don't know what it is?
Yes, of course. I love the Enneagram, and I love to just say that it's a system of development, a system of personal and professional development. And really, it's a roadmap, which it provides you areas where you can grow and lean into. But the Enneagram consists of 9 different styles. And each style is based on a core motivation. And the core motivation, meaning it's a driver that really drives your feelings, your actions, and your thinking. And there's no right nor wrong type. There's no good nor bad. And the Enneagram is not about changing who you are. It's really about embracing who you are and leaning into it to become the most fulfilled, effective version of yourself. I'm mindful to say become the best version of yourself, because that's a very Enneagram 3 thing to say, to try to be the best. But I'm more mindful now that there really is no quote unquote best version of yourself. It's really being yourself, right? I think it's really being your true self, maybe being your more true, authentic self. So there's 9 different styles. And if you think about an iceberg, right, the top of the iceberg is observable behavior. Right? I think we can see in other people, oh, that person is more assertive, or and that person may be more shy. That person is very bold. But underneath the iceberg is what the Enneagram helps us explain, is the motivation behind the behavior. Maybe some of the beliefs, some of the perspectives, the worldview of that person. And that's what the Enneagram helps us understand. So once you understand which is your core type, because there's 9 types, the core type is the main one you resonate with, the Enneagram helps you understand some of the strengths of the other types, which you can incorporate into yourself in order to be more well-rounded, effective, and fulfilled.
No, I love that. And actually, it would be great to. I know we're probably, for the 25 minutes that we've got left or less, we won't have time to go through every single one. But it would be great to, maybe explore a few. I mean, I'm willing to go on to the hot grilling seat if you wanted me to. And then we can explore a little bit live if you wanted to. And with yours. So, I'm an Enneagram 8, maybe sort of explain. I probably don't know enough, so I'll let you guide it and drive it, and we can play with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, first of all, I have your book, Audacity Spectrum, and I actually am very lucky. I have a signed copy. And I love when you first were talking about this, in our mastermind group, this idea of audaciousness and audacity and audacious conversations. I love that. And before I dive into what audacity might mean for you as Enneagram 8, like, how would you define audacious or audacity in your simple terms?
But it's interesting because, it's under the 3 pillars of courage, or care rather, first now. Care, courage, and nonconformity. And when you talk about vulnerability, I sort of know that that's also an edge for the 8, but also I always audaciously state that I wanted to define or redefine audacity in the way that Brené Brown redefined vulnerability. So for me, it's, audacity is being bold, because that's what the dictionary definition tells us, but is also being caring. So it's adding this new dimension to this. And the non-conforming, again, I think it's sort of the recklessness definition or dictionary definition of audacity, but it's more than that to me. It's non-conforming to the rules. And interestingly, as an 8, I'm sure you'll talk about that, I love rules, but I also love to sometimes break them too.
I love that definition that you redefine audacity, right? There's the boldness, there's the caring, there's the nonconformity. So going into that, we know your core type is an 8, Enneagram type 8. And remember, each Enneagram type, at the heart of it, it's about their core motivation. So the core motivation of an 8 is this need to be strong, have a sense of control, and avoid vulnerability. That's kind of the default. So, Alina, if we were to lean into audacity for a type 8, it would be like what would be counterintuitive to an 8. So for you, would it feel bold to let go of control? What would that feel like? To totally let go of control and let others take the lead? How would that be audacious for you?
It would be audacious because it would feel really uncomfortable. Totally, and I play with that this morning with someone in my team. I think it's, that is my default. To your point, when you talk about your 3, the default is like, I'm the best as a number 3. Is for me, it's like, I control, I can fix it. So allowing someone else to make the decision. I think part of it is the decisiveness. So the controller is like, I can make decisions too fast,
Yeah.
sometimes too fast.
Yeah.
So allowing others, it will feel really edgy. So I can see that.
And what's coming up for me as an Enneagram 8 too, there's something about you're a natural leader. I mean, I've been in rooms with you many times, this ability to, naturally step up, naturally take charge, and you enjoy doing it, right? For the most part, even though we've talked about you having better boundaries, but you are a natural leader. You do like to step up to the plate. So what would be audacious for you also would be like fighting that urge to step up to the plate, fighting that urge to take action, fighting that urge to take the lead. Like really lean back and relax would be audacious, which is, I think, like you said, non-conforming in the sense that eights would usually just go with what they usually do, which is take charge. So a non-conforming 8, which would be audacious, would be don't speak up, kind of sit back, let others see what others do and take charge. And though I think the advanced audacity for an 8 would be not even feeling that urge anymore. Because I could see you, leaning back and watching others take charge, but you still might feel that inner urge to be like, oh, they're doing it wrong, or oh no, they need to be doing that. So I think that would be like when you've mastered, your 8 audacity, which is to let others take control, let others take charge, but not feel that inner urge to still say something. Yeah. What do you think about that? Like not have that urge.
That would be true mastery, actually, Hayden. And you're right. That would feel, and I think I've experienced it not a couple of times, but certainly a few times. And what you're talking about, we play with that even in the team. The leading, I'm so, for me, it comes so naturally, like a second nature to lead from the front. That leading from the back, it's more deliberate and intentional. So I could do it, and I've done it with the team. I mean, we did a mastermind, Sylvia and I, last year, and she definitely was in charge and did it all. The same with Carmen on her own well-being retreat. She took charge, and I was. But for me, is noticing when I do want to intervene or interfere, is to surrender and just relax into it.
I love that word surrender. I think that would be really audacious for an 8 as well, is to surrender instead of fighting it. Like surrender instead of fight. I love that. I see you, see that you leaning into that all the time. So Lena, what would be?
Yeah.
Oh, what was that?
I was saying it's your word of urge. For me, it's actually having that awareness of like, oh, I can feel the urge now to lean in the front or to lean in. And that's the moment of, sort of surrendering, as difficult as it may feel in the moment.
Yeah. So what would be another Enneagram type where we could explore what audacity means for them?
Actually, I'd love for you to talk about Chris Frolick 5. And, I mean, in the team, I don't know. I mean, I know Sylvia is a 7. Tatiana is Tatiana 5?
She's a 4. Yeah,
she's a 4. Yeah, she's not. I mean, any of those, you pick a 4 or a 5. I think 7 is,
But we could go into to type 5, so which is a good segue, because as a type 8, like you're the action taker, right? There's a lot of action and boldness, decisiveness. So type 5 is actually quite different. Like they're more of a thinker. So type 5 is called the quiet specialist, and their motivation is about needing to understand, needing to have the knowledge, all of the information, and understanding things objectively to make sense of things. So we love 5s because they're a well of knowledge. They like to go deep and learn every single fact that there is about any topic. So we know we can rely on 5 for like information, facts, objectivity. So be really audacious for 5s is just taking action without all the information, right? And similar to what you said, what Chris Frolick is leaning into, which is failing more. And when I hear people say they're ready to fail more, I think that means just taking action quicker, taking action without knowing things, taking action without all the information, and just making mistakes not intentionally, but making taking action and being okay with mistakes, right? Not being afraid of mistakes and trusting their intuition more, right? Because oftentimes fives, they wait to have objective intellectual data, before taking action. So that's what's coming up for me, is that Audacity is action without all the information. So how do you think that is in alignment with what Chris Frolick is working on as a five?
Well, I think it's definitely aligned. But what's coming up for me is I don't know what my life partner David would be, but if I had to guess, I might just think he's a five for that same very reason. Just like needs all the data and the facts before going into action. So it's interesting in terms of what feels audacious for them, which is feeling more uncomfortable. And I know under your this sort of Enneagram, you have the action, you have the thinking, and you have the feeling, and they also come in a certain order. So for someone like me, I know the action is first, feeling is second, interestingly, and my thinking is last, which is why it's like I don't really think, I jump, and then I find out whether it works.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up. That's called the centers of expression. And the centers of expression, there's a stacking for each. So that the centers of expression is dependent on the individual. It's not like as an 8, everyone is high action. It's Alina is high in action, then feeling, then thinking, and then and so I think even that is a good way to think about Audacity. Is when people do their Enneagram with me, I'm able to see what their stacking is, like if they're high action first, high feeling, or high thinking. And then what would be audacious for any of the people I speak with is their lowest center of expression. It'd be audacious if they try to make that their highest, meaning they try to intentionally increase that. So for you, like having thinking being low, which of course does not mean you're not a smart intellectual person. It just means you're slowing down, taking things slowly and objectively and analytically is not your default. Your default is to jump in. So how would it be audacious for you to, really slow down, take a few days to think about it before you make a decision, and really do some more research and data collection before you jump in with that? How would that be audacious?
Well, it could be huge audition. It's interesting because, and even in a life partnership, I suppose, for David and I, but even in a business partnership, and Carmen and I were talking, I know sort of, me being now vulnerable, which is not something that I feel comfortable with. But we were talking about I made a decision at the weekend to change something in one of our programs, but I didn't really think. It just felt right because again, also I just wanted to get it done. And we just had a conversation this morning, and actually it's like, not really having that conversation first with the team, but making, going into action and then thinking about the concept.
Yeah, that's a great example. Is the default is to take action first, but then what you're realizing sometimes without slowing down to think, get other people's opinion and perspective, you may leave people behind unintentionally, right? So that's something I know you're working on. But back to the Enneagram 5, which is the thinking center, right? Like I said, their audacity is leading into action without all the information, trusting their intuition or their gut, instead of doing more and more research, needing to have more and more information. So in a way, it's like stretching, because each Enneagram type has a stretch as well, a different number on the circle. And I actually think the stretch would be audacious for them. So for Enneagram 5, they could stretch to 7, which 7 is the enthusiastic visionary, which is life is an adventure. Let's just have all the options. Let's just dive in and be playful. So for 7s to be spontaneous and jump in and do something without thinking could be a good stretch for them, and that would be quite audacious. And for Enneagram 8, I'll just mention that the stretch is, well, ironically and not ironically, it's to 5. Enneagram 8s need to stretch to 5, which is stretching to stillness, conserving your resources, thinking more, right? And like you said, collecting more information. So I like that. One way to think of it too is each Enneagram type has at one point called their stretch, and that would prove audacious for them.
So that would be 5 for me. It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's definitely the slowing down. I can see that. And then what you sort of, I don't know what your word for it, I can't remember, but it's almost like that shadow, as you said. For me, when I go too fast, I don't sort of realize I go into quick action, and then I might just leave people behind because they can't keep up.
Yeah, I mean, the shadow, sometimes we call it the vice. Like
That's it. That's
each
it.
Enneagram type has a vice,
Vice.
and for 8, the vice is lust, which is that just inability to hold oneself back, the just excess, diving in, not being able to bite their tongue sometimes, just I just need to do it, I just need to say it, I just need to do it, I just need to act on it, and that's that lust. So then the idea of slowing down, leaning into your 5, don't do anything, slow, think, let's get more information. And then one last thing for 5, Enneagram 5, their vice is actually called avarice. Avarice meaning, because they think so much and because they're actually very much in their head, avarice means guarding their feelings and thoughts. So not only do 5s need to take more action without more information, they also need to be open and sharing their thoughts and feelings, because they could appear sometimes quite stoic or maybe quiet because they're thinking so much. So leaning into the 7, like I said, would be audacious, to be adventurous, be spontaneous, just say whatever's on your mind, share your thoughts and feelings, just blurt it out, which is hard for a 5, right? And I'm mindful of time, so I want to do one more Enneagram type. So I think this is a good idea, because we talked about the 8, which is an action type. We talked about the 5, which is more of a thinking type.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one of the feeling types. So Enneagram 2, right? So Enneagram 2 is the helper. And Enneagram 2, their motivation is they want to be appreciated, they want to be liked. So they're very caring, they're very generous, and many times they put other people's needs in front of their own, right? So we love Enneagram 2s. They're there for us, they care for us, they're so supportive. Yet what would be audacious for an Enneagram 2 would be having those boundaries, taking care of themselves, saying no, and being firm with it, and not like being unapologetic that they have needs, stating their needs, stating their wants, stating their desires, saying no without feeling guilty would be really audacious for an Enneagram 2. And they would feel really bold for them, right? And then once again, coincidentally and non-coincidentally, because this is how the Enneagram works, the stretch for Enneagram 2 is to the 8. So the most audacious move for 2 would be to go to the 8, which is, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want, put their foot down. So what comes naturally for you sometimes to just take charge and get it done, that would be harder for a 2. So that would be audacious for them, to really put themselves first and to take charge of themselves, and not be upset if they're letting people down and disappointing people. What comes up for you to think about any 2s in your life, how that might feel audacious for them to have those boundaries, say no, and put themselves first?
I mean, I was sort of thinking, who do I know, from our group, someone like Sarah, who's a dear friend, they're always caring for other people, and in that sense, for them, to use a strong word is like to feel selfish, to feel, that's not something that would feel really audacious. And it will be not even selfish for any of the rest of us, but to them, it feels that way.
Yeah. I love how you said it feels that way, because that's why 2 is known as a feeling type, right? Because they're always feeling about one, they want to feel loved and appreciated. And also they're always feeling about what the other person is feeling, right? So 2 is a great empathetic type. That's one of their strengths. But as you know, with all of the Enneagram types, any strength in excess can become a weakness, right? So I do think it's possible to be too empathetic, right? And in all of our cases, as a 3, it is possible to be too ambitious, right? And as an 8, it is possible to be too controlling or too much in charge, right? So
yes,
I think the Enneagram really does teach us about how to really be more well-rounded. And last thing about Enneagram 2 as a feeling type is it would be very audacious for them to ask for help, because they're so good at offering it. They're so great at giving it. But for them to really lean into, one, clarifying what they need, and then two, asking for it and allowing people to serve them and help them would be very bold and audacious.
Well, that definitely we should recommend that to them. But one of the things and we've got only 5 minutes. I would love to. One of the things that I think it's audacious about you, Hayden, is the fact that you do these retreats in France. And you speak French, coming from LA. So I'd love to just get a little bit into, and I know that you also, as part of that, you're doing a lot more of this. You're teaching people to explore and play, have fun with it.
Yes. And I love how, one of our intentions for this conversation was to have fun. Yes. So even though I take the Enneagram very seriously, I take coaching very seriously, I also love to have fun. And I love combining my passions. So I love the Enneagram, I love coaching, I love personal development, and I love France. I actually lived in France when I was in college. I speak French. I love French culture. I love French wine. So I do a retreat every September in France. It's for coaches specifically, the coaches retreat in Oros, France, just outside of Bordeaux. And I have a group of coaches together, a small group, about 10 coaches. We dive into our Enneagram. We have our own French private chef. We meet the locals. We coach the locals in English, though, because the French, they speak English. But I think it's a lot of fun. And it's very audacious for me to lead this group with vulnerability, right? Really be authentic and vulnerable, share what's really on my heart and mind. And for all the coaches who come, it's very audacious for them because it's physically out of their comfort zone for most, because most people don't speak French. And then also this idea of going to this other country to learn and grow and do things about the Enneagram is really great. So, and I know you also love combining travel and retreats and personal growth too, right, Alina?
Yes, and I would love to know where will people find out more about that with you? Yes, where? So if anybody would be interested in joining you in France, how can they find out about it?
Oh, well, they can go to my website, haydenlee.com, just HAYDENLEE.com. There's a tab about Coaches Retreat. And it's this year, it's in September, and it's during the wine harvest, because we're doing the metaphor of what are you harvesting in your life and in your business. So we're literally harvesting our own personal growth in Audacity while we're harvesting wine grapes. And my email.
I'm curious because, we're doing Transylvania in September too. And I want, that's where some of my own retreats are. But when is it in September for you?
September 7th through 12th. So it's actually right before Romania. We're going to you. So it's September 7th through 12th in Bordeaux, France.
Fabulous. Yes. We do the same. This is what I call my playful, fun, sexy projects are the retreats. And it will be our 5th in Transylvania in May. So we do it every May. It's called the Audacious Leaders Retreat. Yes. And then we take 14 leaders, 14 to 15 leaders from a Thursday to a Sunday. And the same, all the information, it's on our website on Adapt tab. But it's, it's very transformative. I'm sure it would be exactly the same for coaches that come and join you.
So I know we have a few minutes left. So I have one question for you. For your retreat for the Audacious Leaders in May, what would be really audacious for you this time? Like, how do you want to lean into your audacity in this Audacious Leaders Retreat this time?
Well, I think would be this. I think is to follow on your thread where I think I'm already doing it, but doing it even more as the 5th because it's 4 of us. So it will be to lean back and really lead from the back without having this urge to use your word to be in the front and be in charge. So definitely, surrendering to that and having fun while I'm doing it.
I love that word surrender for you. For me, it's go with the flow, really lean into going with the flow and letting the retreat take care of itself, really, because we get the people there and we have a outline of what we want to do, but really it unfolds itself, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Samar in Bordeaux, France. You have a hand up. So reach out to me on LinkedIn or at haydenlee.com if you want more information. So
Fabulous. Yeah, definitely, Samar. Just go. I mean, for you, that's probably where is that your website and also LinkedIn, Hayden. Is that
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. LinkedIn is a great way to get a hold of me. I know you've
Mhm.
tagged me in this,
Mhm.
and my website, haydenlee.com.
Fabulous. And actually, just at the very end, for everybody, one of the audacious thing about this project, which was the Audacious Conversations for us, they're all now on YouTube. So we will be able to upload that. Samar. Yes, we will upload that. I think probably in about a week time. I think if anybody wants to watch it again,
Yeah.
and really cannot wait. I mean, for you to come to Bordeaux and then jump into and coming to Romania in September, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Lena, for having me on today. And we just touched on a couple of the Enneagram types. And as you know, if anyone wants to find out more about their type, there's so much more to explore because there's 9 types, and the Audacity is different for every type.
Yeah, and I mean you could go so deep into it. I know, we've only touched the surface here, and then even I've got still a lot to learn, even just from for my own 8. But thank you so much. Maybe we'll do it again. We'll go on to the
Yeah.
other types next time. You and I can do one.
That could be a great idea. Yeah, because so we'll keep track of which types. We did 3 types this time. We'll do a different 3 types next time. How about that?
That'll be great. We're on. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Alina.
you, Hayden.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody. Thank you. Bye.